Thank you, Meredith. Okay, hello everyone, and thank you for joining us. The goal of today's webinar is to get you ready for next week's Connecticut Supplier Connection Summit and Matchmaker on June 26th and 27th. My name is Marisol Herrera, and I represent Connecticut Apex Accelerator. I am part of a team of 7 super smart counselors that are available to assist you with government contracting. While folks are joining, I want to bring your attention to the topic of client satisfaction surveys. So here at Connecticut Apex, we send out surveys to clients on an ongoing basis. And this month of June, we sent out our client satisfaction survey along with contract awards survey. For example, one of the questions in the client satisfaction survey is ask about how Connecticut Apex assists clients with understanding on how to sell their products and services to the government, and as well as provide information about government contracting processes and procedures, and providing events where clients are able to network with other businesses and with government procurement representatives, such as next week's Supplier Summit and Matchmaker. We ask you that you please submit the surveys by June 30th because we value your feedback. So joining us today is the Director of Connecticut Supplier Connections, Stephen Samaya. He is also the Associate Director to the Connecticut SBDC. All attendees are muted during this webinar. Questions will be answered at the end of this presentation, and the materials will be emailed out after the presentation. Please send your questions via the Q&A feature at any time. This Apex Accelerator is funded in part through a cooperative agreement with the Department of Defense. Matching funds are provided by Connecticut's Department of Economic and Community Development. Our host agency is Southeastern Connecticut Enterprise Region Sector. We work exclusively with government contracting and provide education in regards to the complexities of government contracting. We assist with registration, certifications, researching procurement histories, and so much more. Connecticut Apex is a statewide program, and we have offices throughout the state. We are available to meet with clients in person and virtually. We invite you to follow us on social media. The first step to receive our assistance is to become a client via our website, ctptech.org. All services are free of cost, including accessing our on-demand video library where you can view various webinars on a variety of government contracting related topics. Today's agenda looks like this. Stephen will talk about the supplier connection background, participating in the event, eligibility, registration, events, buyers, resource partners, and matchmaker in the matchmaking system. All right, so Stephen Sumaya is the Associate Director for the Connecticut Small Business Development Center, where he started as a business advisor in April 2020. Stephen is also an entrepreneur in residence at the Ferguson Library in Stamford, Connecticut, and serves as Director of Connecticut Supplier Connection. All of Stephen's work is focused on helping small businesses, startups, and entrepreneurs to grow efficiently, effectively, and sustainably. He has helped to lead and organize the Connecticut Supplier Connection Annual Growth Summit and Matchmaker and the Direct Supplier Summit for the past 6 years. Stephen, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you pardon me. Thank you very much, Marisol, and thank you also for hosting this great event, this great webinar. And I'm just going to take a second to bring up my slides and make sure that everybody can see them. Let's see.
Yes.
All right, there we go. Okay, well, again, thank you. And just to give you a brief background on Connecticut Supplier Connection, kind of why it exists. It was started back in 2016 by an act of the Connecticut legislature recognizing the need to help connect small and diverse suppliers with Connecticut's large procurement groups, large buying organizations. And that's what the organization's been doing for the past 8 years. And Supplier Connection's primary function is to really facilitate those buyer-supplier connections. We also help with supplier development. In addition to these two events, I'll talk about that a little bit later, but this business matchmaking and training events leading up to it are really the core of the mission. There's a technology platform that we'll talk about a little bit more also that's provided by Supplier.io, and that is essentially a database where you can be found by other buying organizations, and also where by registering you get all of the information on any of the events that are coming up from Connecticut Supplier Connection. Connecticut Supplier Connections this initiative that's hosted at the Connecticut Center for Advanced Technology, CCAT, and it's statewide. You'll notice that we do have some buying organizations sometimes that have because they're very large, they're national organizations, even global organizations, but all of them have a significant presence or a headquarters in the state of Connecticut. And it's important to note that Connecticut Supplier Connection is a free resource. We don't charge for any of the services. We do not charge for joining these matchmakers. In the past, when we were doing these in person, there was a nominal fee to help defray some of the costs, but we have, for the past 4 years, have been providing all of these matchmakers and all of the related events for no charge at all to the buyers or suppliers in the state of Connecticut. So why participate? Well, you can be found just by registering on Supplier.io. You can be found by over 100 large buying organizations nationwide that use Supplier.io as their supplier diversity portal. Others that don't use it as their supplier diversity portal still have access. You can connect with some of the largest buying organizations in Connecticut through our business matchmaker events, which you find out about first if you register with us on the website, Supplier.io, and I'll show you the exact link for that in a moment. Now, it's important, included in this, of course, are the government prime contractors in the network and other small and diverse businesses that participate. So keep in mind, you can search the database if you register not only for the large buying organizations, but you can actually search for one another. You can, frequently small businesses in the state are one another's clients and one another's partners. So it's another way for you to identify companies that you can work with. And you can also benefit from the Connecticut Supplier Connection Supplier Development Academy, which I'll talk about a little bit more in a moment too. Now, to be eligible, you have to be a small business, primarily, roughly defined as revenues of under $50 million with fewer than 500 employees in your workforce. And you need to be a for-profit company that's registered to do business in the United States. Now, suppliers with a diversity certification are eligible regardless of size. So it can be a larger than 50 million or the 500 employee limit if the business holds diversity certifications. And you also have to sell a good or service that's listed as an acceptable commodity. Acceptable commodity, in part defined by legal under federal law. So how to register with Connecticut Supplier Connection. Pretty simple URL right there. It is ct.supplier1.co.com. And that will take you right to the page that you're seeing here. It's very straightforward. To begin your registration, you would enter your company name where it says begin your registration and click find my company. You may find that your company is listed. You may find that you didn't put it there, and that's okay, because that means that supplier.io, Supplier One rather, has identified some of your publicly available information and has started to populate a profile. Just makes it a little bit easier for you to fill things in. And for those who are using it, they may already know of your existence, but they're not going to know much about you. If you log in and find that you already have brochures or capability statements listed, then someone in your company has already listed you. So don't list yourself twice. Now, for assistance to develop a good profile, you really should have a good capability statement. You should work with your Connecticut Apex Accelerator counselor to do that. And if you need any assistance with registration for this, because it can be a little bit of a longer process. There are a lot of fields. And it's not that it's difficult, it's just that sometimes you do get hung up, but you can always email a question to me at ctsupplierconnection@gmail.com, just for future reference. Now, the Supplier Diversity Academy that I mentioned briefly, there are a few events held throughout the year to help prepare for these business matchmakers. A lot of it is focused on either financial preparedness or marketing and business development, targeting your marketing plan. And we have representatives from Connecticut SBDC, Apex Accelerator, SCORE, NIST, and others who develop curricula that help prepare you for these, not just for the matchmakers, but to do business with large buying organizations, government contracting in general. We also have sponsored lunch and learns with a lot of large buying organizations. So they'll come on for an hour and talk to you specifically about, in a webinar, specifically about what they're looking for, how to do business with them. Again, they're also trying to help you to succeed. They want to have as robust a supplier base, and a lot of that is through making sure that they have supplier diversity. Now, I've mentioned a couple times about these events, these matchmakers. Both events feature a business matchmaker, the two primary events a year. We'll always have a keynote address from senior industry procurement professionals and updates from the state resources and programs. The overall Supplier Growth Summit, this one is open to all suppliers of direct and indirect materials, services, support, etc. Any company that is really selling anything that any large organization might buy is welcome. And the 8th annual Supplier Growth Summit will be held in December of this year. The one that's coming up next week is the 4th annual Direct Supplier Summit. We started to do the Direct Supplier Summit as a response in part to the state's additional focus on manufacturing over the last several years, and with a recognition that we can have a more focused event, have a buyer group that is more focused on not just manufacturers, but primarily manufacturers. And the reason I say not just manufacturers, you may be a distributor, if not a manufacturer, of materials and services. So the direct versus indirect. By direct here, we mean that the direct materials and services are those that find their way into the final product of the buying organization. So you could be manufacturing parts to go into Sikorsky's helicopters or Medtronic's equipment, or you could be developing software that's going to be in control systems. But they're not really, this one in June is not really intended for facilities management, snow removal, landscaping, janitorial supplies, etc. That is for the December event, and as are also the manufacturers. So everybody's welcome in December, but we're really trying to focus on direct suppliers for the June event. So I mentioned already that the event will be on June 26th and 27th. next week, and we'll pop this link into the chat so that you're able to, you're able to click right on it rather than having to copy this down. But if you did miss it, if you searched event decks and Connecticut Supplier Connection, you'll end up bringing up a web page where there's a registration page for this. But we'll put this in the chat for you momentarily. A couple of highlights from the agenda. I mentioned the keynote kickoff session. This is going to start at 9 a.m. on the 26th. And we're very happy to have Roseanne Barbieri, who's the Vice President of Technical Sourcing for Medtronic. Also, the Chief Manufacturing Officer for the state of Connecticut, Paul Lavoie, is going to give a view of manufacturing. And we're going to have two state representatives, Steve Metzgers and Cindy Harrison, also to give us a view from the legislature and what they're seeing. And they were both quoted in some articles recently on the state of manufacturing and the state of supply chain in Connecticut. So I would encourage you to register to join for that session as well, in addition to the 15-minute one-on-one meetings that you'll be able to have with buyers over the 2 days. So who are the buying organizations? They're listed here. I won't read them all, but I will highlight, several of these. Marisol mentioned that Apex assists with government contracting and also works with helping to work with prime contractors. So here we've got obviously the state of Connecticut, which is just state contracting, not federal, but General Dynamics, Sikorsky, and Pratt & Whitney are among obviously government prime contractors. And then there are several that are not necessarily doing business directly with the government, but are very large buying organizations: Charter Communications, Eversource, I'm sure we've all heard of them, Stanley Black & Decker, that really buy a wide variety of direct goods and services. We have a number of organizations throughout the state who support this effort. They provide content, they help us promote it. And again, some of the key partners that help with the education programs as well are Connecticut Apex and Connecticut SBDC. But you can see we've got the support of a lot of the manufacturing associations in the state as well, and all of them provide something else. So these are all, and on the website, each of these will be clickable, as will the buyers' logos, and you can go and take a look at their website to see what they offer and how they may be able to provide assistance for you as well. And I'm going to take a little time to go through this process in an overview, and then we're going to dive a little bit deeper into each step. So first step, obviously, is to register. Giving you the long URL there. There's also a short URL, a bit.ly. You could jot that down now just to make sure you've got it if you like, and that'll take you right to the website, bit.ly/ctgrowth. So after you register, when you create your profile, make sure you're as specific and distinctive as possible to differentiate your company. Buyers are looking at a lot of meeting requests. They don't have to accept all meeting requests. It's at the buyer's discretion whether they accept a meeting from a supplier that requests one. So you really want to stand out. You want them to be able to understand who you are. In your profile, you'll put in a lot of your basic information, but you'll have an opportunity to differentiate yourself. We'll look specifically at what a profile looks like in a minute. When you request meetings, that'll be the next step. After you register and set up your profile or bring in your profile, you'll have the opportunity to request meetings with the large buying organizations that are a good fit. I highly recommend that you read the profiles. Don't just go by name recognition. You may know some of these companies, but you want to make sure that they're interested in buying what you are selling. So there are two different types of buyers that attend these events from these organizations. One is the supplier diversity managers. Now, they may be willing to meet with a wide variety of suppliers who supply virtually anything that their company might be able to use, and then bring the most promising ones back into the procurement organization. They'll try to have discussions. They'll try to make the category managers in the buying organization aware of you, and then try to help facilitate further meetings. But there are also going to be category managers who are going to be there. Now, they'll meet only with a narrow focus, a narrow group of suppliers that fit their criteria. If you have a printed circuit board buyer, they're not going to likely want to meet with suppliers of paper and cardboard printed packaging. So be sure. And by the way, some of the organizations have multiple buyers for that purpose, so that they have different category managers present. So take a look at each of the profiles and try to identify ones that are the best fit for you. Know the organizations themselves as well. That's the third step there. One of the things, some of the feedback that we get from buyers is they get frustrated when a supplier starts a meeting with them and is asking about their company or their organization or what they do. You have to go in prepared. They have a pretty high bar, right? They have an expectation that they want to do business with companies that have done their homework. So do that homework to determine which ones you should be focusing on. Don't try to force a square peg into a round hole. They can buy from virtually anybody, and you really have to make sure that you're a great fit. And you can tailor your pitch to their needs if you do some homework. If you check their profile on the event website, if you go to their websites and you take a look at what they need, if they have a supplier diversity portal or a supplier registration portal, you can submit your company information to them. In fact, if they have that, they'll require that you submit their company information to them. If they have the opportunity for you to subscribe to bulletins, please do so. They may have a way for you to subscribe to get RFPs or other contract information, and just read articles, search for them. Meet influencers at outreach events if you're going to any industry events, and develop relationships. So these are, they're putting out RFPs, and they absolutely are going to be doing their due diligence, but they're buyers, they're humans, they're individuals, and developing a relationship is important. They need to have confidence in the people and the companies that they're buying from, but in the end, it helps if you get to do homework on them, let them know that you've done your homework through your conversation with them. That'll start off on the right foot. And I'm already alluding to preparing your pitch. Be clear and concise. Lead with your unique value proposition. Exchange contact information with them early. This is a really important step. Very early in the meeting with them, ask them for their email address or their phone number. They may share only a general email address. A lot of organizations have a single point where they want all emails to come to. That's okay, but it's important that you do get it. Otherwise, I get every single year, I get several requests afterwards of asking for buyers' information. Now, I won't give that out. I will only direct your information to that buyer if they want to reach out to you. They may be more liberal in sharing information with you if you ask. So please do ask early on in your meeting. Talk to them about again, I mentioned your unique value proposition. What problem of theirs do you solve? That's how organizations buy, right? If you're solving a problem they have, that's the strongest argument. Have a good capability statement. If there's an opportunity, share it with them in advance. If you've made the appointment, then if they've made their email address public, send it to them by all means. If not, you're going to be in a Zoom type environment like this. You can put a link to it in the chat. Remember that the capability statement is a snapshot of your company that serves as a resume for your business. So you do want to try to convey that. Again, attach it to your profile so that they can look at it in advance if they're taking the initiative too. There's also something that I'll show you in a couple of minutes called the networking lounge that's part of the event. And it's a virtual lounge where you can meet other small businesses who could be suppliers of yours, as I mentioned before. It's another opportunity to continue to network. I'd already mentioned, please do attend the keynote address. You're going to learn, hopefully, some useful facts about what's going on in the state of supply chain, the state of manufacturing, and the state of Connecticut. And also, there's a tips page on the website for where you register. Read that. That was written by one of the buyers, and most of the information came from different buyers. And they're really telling you what they do and don't want to hear and do and don't want to see. So once again, they're really trying to make it help you set you up for success. And then number 5, follow up. Listen to the feedback you get during the call, but follow up. Send a thank you email. Again, important to get their contact information. Send a thank you email. Follow up with additional literature, with any brochures, with links to your website, if you hadn't gotten them the capability statement yet. You don't necessarily want to ask for a sale in your first email after an initial meeting with a buyer, but you need to, again, start developing that relationship, demonstrate value. If there's a great article in the industry that you've run across, share that. Now, we'll kind of double click a little bit on each of those sections that we went through. So first step is registration. I want to make sure something's very clear here. In addition to getting to the website, which is eventdex.com/CT Supplier connection/registration.php. Again, the link's in the chat. It's very important. Select a supplier ticket. There are two types of tickets, supplier and general admission. General admission and exhibitors are only for those who are neither buyers nor suppliers. You cannot request a meeting if you have a general admission ticket. If you have a supplier ticket, you get to attend everything. So that is what you want to register for. That's basically your all access ticket. Once you register, this screen is going to pop up. And the first thing you have an opportunity to do is either sign in or sign up. Now, if you have attended an EventDex event before, if you've been part of any of our supplier connection events before, then you should already have a profile. You can click sign in and bring up your profile and then update it rather than going through a new registration. If you have not, then you can click sign up or really just continue scrolling down and provide the contact information that it's asking for, company information, individuals that are going to be attending. When you have an opportunity, as I mentioned, to upload a capability statement right there at the top, then you can put in your primary business category. That is a pull-down menu. I've opened it here to demonstrate. So you can take a look through and scroll down and pick the business category that's closest to yours. It may not be a perfect match, but it at least starts to zero in. And then there's a space for company overview. It's covered by this screen, by that pull-down menu right now. It's just an open field. Put in a couple of sentences that really provide a good brief description of your company, what you do. And again, you can pop in your unique value proposition if you can articulate it in a sentence or two there. What are your the product or services? What are your keywords? So that second box down there, put them right in there. If you supply screws, hardware, put that in there. If you're supplying printed circuit boards and wiring harnesses, put those words in there. If you have a DBA, it's a good idea to put that in there so that they can find you and identify you. And there's an opportunity to put in the geographical region in which you operate. And then the final fields here, put in your NAICS code. Hopefully you know your NAICS code. If not, you can look it up. It's on a couple of different websites have it, but the best one is on the US Census website. That's going to be the most up-to-date. And if you know it, you can just type it in. If not, you can click on it and scroll until you see the NAICS code that is the best description for your business. You can put in and select your primary industry if you're in more than one. Diversity type information also. You can put in the diversity certifications that you have there. And then commodities, that's going to be another pull-down menu. You click on that and select as many commodities as you provide that are listed there. And the final question is whether you're already registered with Connecticut Supplier Connection. And we took a look at that already. That's that supplier.io, ct.supplier1.co database. If you have, you can just check yes. If you have not, check no, and then you'll get a follow-up email. That'll complete your registration. Now, what we've gone to here, once you register, by the way, you'll get an email that is going to have instructions on how to log in, update your profile if you need to, and it'll have step-by-step instructions on how to request meetings. We'll go through some of that right now. So the first place you can go is the dashboard, as we're pointing to there. And this is what your dashboard will look like. If you have any pending appointments, you'll see them there. If your appointments have already been confirmed, you'll see that. If any of your appointments have been canceled, that'll be the note. Keep that in mind for a second. A canceled appointment could be that a buyer did not want to meet with you because you're not a good match, or they may send you a request to reschedule if you've requested a meeting and they've developed a conflict. So that could also show up there. And any missed appointments, if you have not made it to a scheduled meeting, if you didn't log in, that's going to show up there. Please do not do that. Buyers really take exception to no-shows, and we will have a harder time getting them to participate in events, and obviously it will reflect very poorly in your company. I'm not going to spend more time on it because I wouldn't assume that anybody here would do that. Next place that you might click is your profile. You've already entered the information in your profile, but you can come here and view it and edit it, enhance it, update it. On the left side here, you see basic information, work information, commodities, all the things we just went through. You can access how they're going to show up on the buyer's screens, and you can also edit them here again if you need to. You also have an opportunity here if you want to update a headshot for yourself, update a logo for your company, or put in a background here where it's currently green. None of those are required. And while those could be helpful, I think it is much more important to focus on the content, focus on your company information, and make sure that that is complete, and make sure that it represents you well. And again, you're demonstrating why a buyer should do business with you. Next thing you can click on is manage schedules. So this isn't where you request appointments, but what it is if you have certain times because of your commitments that you cannot make meetings, then you can click the down arrow that you can see right next to what would be a green field initially. It opens it up like this, and you click, and I clicked block, and then that time will show red. You could put a reason if you want to, but that's not really important. But the reason you might do this is, as I mentioned, a buyer may need to reschedule a meeting. If there are times you're not available, block them out so that a buyer is not requesting a meeting when you're not available. Next, finally, we get to go and take a look at the buyers and see who we might want to request meetings of. Now, the Matchmaker has been open for about a week and a half already, so some of the buyers may not have that many appointments left, as you can see with Eversource, but some might have plenty, and that's Stanley Black & Decker, for instance. The reason they may have more or fewer isn't not necessarily popularity. It may be that the buyer for Stanley Black & Decker was willing to take more meetings. We ask all buyers to take at least 12 meetings, but I know that some of them are willing to meet almost all day on the 2 days that we have available. One of our buyers had 32 meetings a couple of matchmakers ago. And for that, we thank them for providing the extra availability. So take a look, of course, at who's available. And once you do, you can click on one of the buyers. So for instance, I clicked on Wendy Moreno of Pitney Bowes. So I could see right in here, what are the NAICS codes that they have listed? Now they're putting in NAICS codes of areas where that their industry is in, right? They're in the processing, physical distribution, logistics, packaging and labeling, et cetera. Helps you understand a little bit more detail perhaps about their business. They'll also have the company information that you can read down there, and the commodity information. So those are the commodities right there that they may be interested in. So you'll be able to tell right there what they're looking for. So they're looking for information technology, logistics support, machine manufacturing, packaging, et cetera. So you get a really good idea. And some buyers are more thorough than others, but you'll get an idea beyond just, oh, Pitney Bowes is the postage meter company. So you can really narrow down on, oh, they're interested in robotics. They may be a good match for me. Then how do you actually request the meeting? After you look at the profile, you can just click right back on that buyer, and their schedule will come up. If it's a green slot, it's available. You'll see this open when you click on it. Do you want to book an appointment? And you'll just click that you do, yes. And any of the grayed out slots just mean that those are either taken or they've blocked them off. Next, when you're preparing for the Matchmaker, for the meetings next Wednesday and Thursday, you can check My Appointments. You'll see all of you, if you go to that tab, you'll see all the appointments that you have scheduled. And I also strongly encourage you to do a test call. Do it more than once. You want to make sure, one, that you can connect. What EventDex advises is to use Chrome. Chrome is compatible. Some browsers are more or less compatible. It's not to say it won't work if you're using Edge, but Chrome is the best browser to use if you've got availability, if it's available to you. Do a test call from here. Also, you don't see it now because it is not live yet. There will be another tab here that says Networking Lounge, and you'll have an opportunity to click on that a couple of days before the event. Definitely enter it after the kickoff session, and for a couple of reasons, and I'm going to show them to you now. So the lounge, this is a shot from last year's lounge. So don't worry about the fact that it says 2023. But they give you a little bit of an environment here, and you can see right up there, it says lounge. As I said, that tab will appear. You want to go here, and again, test. I suggest making another test call. Once again, you can join your meetings, by the way, from at least 3 different places. You can come into the lounge and join from here. You can go to your dashboard and join from an appointment that you have there. And you will also have received an email confirming your appointments, and you'll be able to click in straight from that email. There'll be a link. But I suggest log into the lounge, get a feel for it. You'll see a few of these icons down on the left in red. And sorry. And so, for instance, if you click on the one that looks like a little speech bubble, it's going to open up a list of attendees, and you can click on any of them and actually request a private chat with them, just like going into a breakout room. So once again, you might identify some prospective partners. The buyers may or may not be participating in this. They'll be listed. They may or may not be live. There's an indication of who's in the lounge when you're looking at the list. But it's a pretty interesting opportunity to network further. And I encourage you to kind of play around in the lounge, click on the different things. There's nothing here that can mess up your appointments or do anything bad, but it's great to take a look at the different ways you can access it. When you click on the one that looks like 2 little figures there, that's going to open up what they call the attendee wall. And it's just a different view of people. And you can hover over them, and you'll see more information like I did there for David Kearns. You can request a video call when you're hovering over someone and try to start a video call with them right away. You can start a chat right away, or you can exchange business cards. So this is how you can leverage the networking lounge to best effect. Now, how much time do we have left? I want to make sure we have enough time for Q&A. I can attempt to do a little bit of a live demo that shows more of what we were just doing. Marisol, what do you think as far as timing goes?
You still have some time. It's only 11:39.
Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing for a moment, and then I will try to open. I'll start sharing again a view of the live website. Okay.
I did send the links via the chat box, folks, so please save those links on your end.
Terrific. So right here, this is the actual dashboard that I was pointing out earlier. And here's the profile. Of course, I made a dummy profile for this, so I don't have extensive information, but you can click right along here, as I mentioned. So this is how you would navigate, and you can put more content in here. You can, it's like typing in Word. You can really put some content in that's customized. Here's where you can list your products and services by keyword. So for instance, if I wanted to put in printed circuit boards, I could do that right there and just keep adding products. What commodities? Also, and that's a pop-up. So I could, you can scroll down and say, oh, we actually provide computer services, or whatever might be the right fit. Just giving you an idea of how to navigate. And again, with the NAICS codes, you can either pull down, as I just did, and scroll through, or start entering a number, 1, 1, 2, and then it'll narrow it down for you. Diversity type information. Similarly, there's a pull down menu where you can enter any and all of the appropriate diversity certifications you have. And I'm going to show you the buyers, because that might have been something that's a little harder to see from the slides that I had. So let's just take a quick look at Medtronic. So what has actually we were talking about Stanley Black & Decker. Let's stick with them. So if I want to learn more about Stanley Black & Decker, I'm going to click on the buyer's name or on their circle there. And again, this will bring up their profile, and I can take a look at this. Then I can close it and say, you know what, I do want to book an appointment with Brittany from Stanley Black & Decker. And right here you can see 12:30 is not available, 12:50 has been blocked, but 1:30 is available. I click right there. I can add a note if I want to. We supply quality widgets. And I'm not going to actually book this because I don't want to take up an appointment. But then I would be able to click book and I would have a meeting. And it tells me I have 4 appointment requests till I've reached my limit. And I didn't mention that before, so I'm glad I did that. You start with 4 appointments. If we find, say by end of day tomorrow, that there are still lots of unfilled slots, we may increase that and give everybody an additional meeting or 2. So we could increase it to 5 or 6 meetings per supplier. We're doing that, of course, to give everybody a chance, and it's unlikely that you might be a fit for more than 4, 5, 6 different suppliers here, considering that they're all from, from different industries. So that gives you a little bit of an idea of how to navigate and how to request an appointment there. I have not made any appointments. This won't be terribly, won't show you too much by showing my appointments, but I can manage my own schedule, as I mentioned. And right there, I can open that and I can block that time slot if I'm not going to be available from 1:10 to 1:25 on the 26th. So also worth noting here, click right on that to change it to Thursday, the 27th. And I can block my 8 to 8:15 also. I'm going to go back to buyers for a second, because also when you click book an appointment here, note the 6:26 is highlighted. If you want a meeting on the 6:27, you can see whether they have any available by clicking on 6:27 instead. And Sheila's actually not there to take meetings, so don't be discouraged by that. She hasn't been booked up. She's not supposed to be taking meetings. She's assisting. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Sheila is, but she's booked up. Sorry about that. I apologize for misstating that. In any case, and then again, you'll be able to navigate to the networking lounge from there, but that's not live yet. So with about 15 minutes left,
we do have some
take
questions.
some questions. Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm going to start with this first one. All right. So first question, is the June events appropriate for my service-based graphic design, print and web business?
In all likelihood, the December event would be a better fit. Okay. If you were to register and you want to take a look, it depends, of course, on the buyer, right? So if there's a company here, and I'm not getting into the specifics, but I'm going to make it up, one that's not participating, Coca-Cola, and say Coca-Cola was actually looking for new design for special limited edition cans or something to that effect. Maybe a graphic design firm would be a direct supplier for that. For this group, I don't think that is. However, it doesn't hurt you to register and take a look before you decide to make an appointment or to forego it.
Thank you for that, Stephen. And I forgot to give everyone a heads up. We are polling the audience, and there's 3 questions that we ask you to complete. So take a few seconds to do that. And while you do that, I'm going to go on to the next question. And it says, will this supplier connection event be beneficial for companies that provide business, accounting, and bookkeeping services, also courier services?
Again, those would be a perfect fit for the December event, which is the Supplier Growth Summit, which is for all companies of all types. And that all the what you think of as more kind of headquarters or support staff kind of services, those would be more appropriate for that.
Great. And this event, this training, Stephen, is very helpful because it does prepare them for those, not only the next matchmaker that you're going to hold, but for other matchmakers. And you also emphasize how important it is for them to do their homework.
Yeah.
So if I can share my screen, you mentioned that the buyers that are going to take place, going to participate next week. And from here, from your website, Stephen, I think it's great that you have, if they click on those buyers, and part of their research is to go and get to know those buyers and what they procure. So here's Sikorsky, for example. If you go there, do your homework, click on the suppliers tab, and it's going to take you to a page on how to do business with them. And you'll also find there's resources here available, and you can click on doing business and click on get connected to learn more about this buyer. It's important to do your homework because you want to give a good, strong, positive impression. So you can, if you look over, you're going to spend a lot of time here getting to know your potential buyer, and click on what we buy. It's important to not only not waste your time, but most importantly, not waste their time. So here, if you click on the item, on that link on what they buy, you can see for yourself, this is what they buy.
It's not a secret. They
It's not
put
a
it
secret.
right out there.
Right, right. So the more you research that potential buyer of your client of yours, the better positioned you are to do business with them.
Because
So I hope that was
just
helpful. Yeah,
I'm sorry, Marisol, to emphasize that point, because if you enter a meeting with that buyer and they say, oh, have you registered on our website yet? And you say, no, well, why haven't you? You know it
right.
exists. Go and do that. And that's a necessary step. If they ask you, do you know what we buy? You should have reviewed that list and say, yes. And in fact, we're right on because we see that you buy XYZ and we provide XYZ.
Exactly. Get to know what they buy, because you'll be able to talk to that.
Mhm.
Great. So let's see if we have any other questions here. Let me see here. So a lot of these businesses that are participating today would benefit more from your December event, which is open to all.
Sure.
Here's another question here. What about technology solutions around logistics and supply chain? Would that be a good fit?
That is definitely a great one for December. For this time, again, technology and logistics. If there were a technology and logistics company participating, and you might look at Pitney Bowes, because we were looking at their profile, right? And Pitney Bowes provides technology and logistics. Do they source any of that? Is all of it developed in-house, or do they actually acquire any of that? I would suggest taking a look at Pitney Bowes' website, taking a look at see if they may not have things to the level of detail that Sikorsky did that Marisol just showed, but learn as much as you can. And again, register for the event and see what they're looking for. You're close with that, right? So you might be right a good fit for Pitney Bowes. And I wouldn't rule out Stanley Black and Decker for logistics either. Take a look at what they're asking for. I didn't take a look in the last day or so I don't have it memorized exactly which commodities and services that they're looking for. But that's why that we ask them to provide as much information as possible to guide you.
Great. So I do want to also emphasize, Stephen, you mentioned capability statement. Connecticut Apex Accelerator is here to assist you with your capability statement. We can send you an editable template along with a sample capability statement, but most importantly, we can help you create a capability statement. So reach out to your counselor, your primary counselor. If you don't know who that is, reach out to me or to Kendi. Kendi, can you please send your email address via the chat box, and we can direct you to who your primary counselor is. But having an updated capability statement is important. Wouldn't you agree, Stephen?
Absolutely. No question.
And
Some of this is just meeting the expectations of the buyers. If they figure that if you're selling to them, if you're trying to sell to them, you better have your ducks in a row.
Yes, it's very important because I do see one of the attendees here was disappointed because her last experience at this matchmaker, the buyer canceled or didn't show up. So I would ask myself,
Mhm.
is that potential buyer buying what I procure?
Now,
Oh,
and by the way, things do happen too. So one, I just wanted to put up the contact information while we're asking some questions here, so that if anybody wants to jot any of that down. But a buyer may miss an appointment. Now, one buyer last year, for instance, missed an entire day, and I found out it's because he was in the emergency room, unfortunately.
all right.
And I was able to get a list of all of the appointments that he had missed. And he, by the way, he texted me from the emergency room to let me know. And I was able to get emails out to all of the suppliers that were scheduled to meet with him. And obviously people weren't happy, but he agreed to take all that contact information. And my understanding is that he did reach out individually to try to make up those meetings afterwards when he was back in the office. So
Great.
things like that happen. And if someone is a no-show, other than that, that's something I would like you to let me know about. And my email address, the one to use for this for sure, is ctsupplierconnection@gmail.com. If you send an email telling me I had a meeting with a certain buyer, CT Supplier Connection, sorry, there's an S there, Supplier Connection. If you have a meeting with a buyer and they didn't make it, they may have had something come up and they may be very agreeable to making that meeting up to you.
Great, because that was part of the question, is how are the buyers held accountable for attending?
Yes, and if I get the feedback, I will absolutely circle back to them and find out. If it was a case of, that they shouldn't be accepting meetings if they don't want to meet with you. So that's not where that should come out. That should come out with a declined meeting request, and that's acceptable, right? If you're selling paper bags and they don't buy paper bags, there's no reason for them to have a meeting with you. I would encourage them to keep that slot for someone else and let you have a slot to make a request of a company that does buy what you're selling.
All right. And another question was regarding IT services.
Mhm.
If this
Whether
even, Mhm.
And that again, that gets into the specifics of what type of IT. It's such a broad term, IT services. I was talking to a company that provides outsourced IT services yesterday. There are some things that that company does that are absolutely more in the support. That's kind of like supporting their web development or their a company's sales force. But they do custom development, which could end up being a fit for someone's direct services. Pitney Bowes, I'm just using them as an example because we've mentioned them. Obviously, they have all kinds of machines that use and web services that use IT services. Now, I don't know whether they develop everything in-house or whether they outsource them. So it depends a little bit more. If your IT services are really focused on support systems, the systems that run the company, not that make it into the final product, then it's probably better for the December event. But if your services might make it into the final product, that it's something that they are reselling essentially, then it's a direct service.
Super. And it looks like that's all the questions we have. Oh, I think, wait, let me just double check here.
Sure.
Okay, there's another one and ask about staffing and recruiting services.
Definitely a December event. That is absolutely one that I would imagine most of the buyers, if they're looking at the request, would decline for this one, only because this really is, staffing and recruiting definitely isn't something that makes it into the final product. I'll just a word there, and you've probably experienced this. I know staffing and recruiting, I have seen both companies say, we really need staffing and recruiting, and I've seen others say, please don't show us staffing and recruiting because we have our 2 contracts and we can't go outside of those. So that's a great example of where you should really look at, for the December event, look at what the buying organizations have listed as commodities they are interested in. And some of them will not only say, we want to see, these commodities and services, they might actually say, please do not talk to us about these others, legal services, for instance, or whatever it might be. But I happen to have seen in the past both sides with buyers. They very much need new sources of staffing, and others that say, we're complete and everything's under contract, and we're not open to that.
Great, thank you for that. Another question is that this person does not have a Connecticut Apex Accelerator counselor, but they do have an SBDC advisor. And her question is, do I need to get Apex? Not necessarily. Connecticut SBDC, your SBDC advisor can assist you. If you're looking to grow through government contracting, then definitely reach out to us. I did put our link into the chat. And we will get you government contract ready. And what that means is that you have a strong financial foundation. We make sure that you review your portfolio of customers in the commercial and private sector. We assist with helping you get certification, social economic certifications. We review your past performance and that you're able to commit resources so that you can do business with the government. And we can assist you with the capability statement. So I've put the link in the chat box for just in case you want to become a client. All our services are free of cost.
And even though it was up there, I just put in case it's easier to copy and paste, I just put my email address for Connecticut Supplier Connection in the chat too.
Great.
Follow-up questions, things you didn't think of here, please feel free to email me. Since I do work for SBDC as well, if you want to tell me, I have an SBDC advisor, but I don't remember who it is or something like that, I can look it up for you and let you know also.
All right. And we just have about 3 minutes left. Stephen, would you be kind enough to move the slide to the next one, please?
Absolutely. Sorry, let me just. That is, there was that, and then the next one.
Okay, I want to make sure that everyone does see my contact information. You will be getting these materials after this presentation. Next slide, Stephen. And we thank Stephen, first of all, thank you for taking time for joining us today with this very informative and helpful training. And we're looking to support anyone who needs assistance with registering for the event, as well as setting up your matchmaking portal, as well as thank you, everyone. I think mission accomplished. Great training session. Thank you, Stephen, and thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Marisol, thank you for organizing this and for being such a great supporter of Connecticut Supplier Connection, and most importantly, for all the small and diverse suppliers in the state.
Thank you. We will be participating in an event, so we hope that attendees will visit our virtual booth or
Yes.
how can you reach us?
I apologize, I didn't mention that. I'm getting it set up. We have an opportunity, and when you enter the networking lounge, you'll see a pop-up that shows companies that you can, organizations. These are technical assistance providers like Apex, CT Apex and SBDC and perhaps others, where you could drop in on a virtual expo when there are office hours. So you could meet with someone from the organization to explore how they might be able to help you.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Stephen. And yes,
Thanks for the
everyone will
reminder.
be receiving this video after this at the end.
Great.
All
Thank
right.
you so much.
Bye.